Ex-homeless Redditors. What was the scariest thing that you ever saw on the streets? NSFW. Kids beating the crap out of a homeless man. Started with them spitting on him. He gets up and runs after them. Then a couple of them hit him from behind with some icky looking wood. You know, the one that snaps easy. He gets mad and they run off. He comes back to the bench and falls asleep again. 10 minimums later they're back and they just start beating the ducking crap out of him. I had to jump in and stop them. A woman giving birth at a bus terminal. Cold weather. I thought I was going to die one night. I was so cold. I remember waking up thinking you need to move or you are going to die. Lots of stabbings and rapes. I was stalked by a gang one night on my way home from work. I still have no idea how I wasn't raped or mugged. Once I woke up suddenly to a not homeless man holding a huge knife staring at me inside the abandoned building's basement I was sleeping in. Once he noticed I was awake, he asked if I was Russian. I said no, and he said he was looking for a different girl. Gave me $20 and left. Edit. If you can read this and immediately think yes, it's the best idea to send this woman disgustingly perverse messages and ask for nudes. I hope your sticks stay flaccid for eternity. Was homeless for a summer and an acquaintance through the party scene of the town invited me to crash on her couch. Woke up in the middle of the night to her screaming into her phone about how they are out to get her and are setting the world up for destruction. Pretended like I was still asleep and got out to there the next day real quick. I saw a really angry bald man aggressively masturbating his flaccid stick. TBH, that was probably the most scary thing. People who had been homeless way longer than me. Trust me, there is nothing scarier on the streets than the meth couple who this has been their day in and day out for 1000s of days. I was just sleeping around where other guys in my city sleep. Then just see some teens stabbing one of the homeless guys multiple times. Ran away from there. Never turned back. Snow. I'm a big, scary dude, so I never had trouble with people picking on me or whatever. In that sense the streets were safe to me. But seeing snow for the first time that year just made me cry and panic. It was too early for snow. I wasn't ready for that type of cold and was hoping to be on my feet again before the winter came. The beautiful thing like snow just ducked me up in so many ways. Biggest thing. 5 feet 3, 115 pounds. Was how often people try to abduct you. That and how often people try to serve you tampered food. The teenagers trying to get clout by assaulting/pranking you is another one. Everyone is gonna try to steal from your ass, so watch your crap. Keep your mouth shut and find a good place that is desolated from nocturnal animals and assholes. There is a drainage ditch in my area that the local homeless people tend to bed down in. A few years ago, when I found myself destitute, I spent one night down there. That night I witnessed a Molotov get thrown into another dude's spot, which led to a huge fire that ran rampant through the area. Yeah. I bought a tent the next day and started camping in the local mountains. So I lived in my car, but I remember seeing this woman and talking to her outside a store when I was just chilling eating some food, and she told me she had been homeless literally her entire life and had never slept on a proper bed in her life. I asked how old she was. She told me she was 53. It was scary to me because I realized that that could have easily been me. I think about that woman every single day. I've never been homeless, but I work in a homelessness service. One of my colleagues had been homeless and was telling me about it. He said he had a sleeping bag and a small tent in the woods that he used to sleep in. I said I would be too crap scared to do that. He then tells me when sleeping in a city center he was pissed on multiple times and was set fire to once, and he would rather take the very slim chance of bumping into a killer looking for people in a forest at night. People are ducking sticks. This isn't remotely scary. It's more just ducked up. After we lost our home, we stayed in a motel for a while, but due to occupancy rules I slept in the car in the parking lot. One night a woman parks next to me in the lot, and the security guard shows up, and they literally spent the next 3 hours getting high, talking, and then ducking in the car. The entire time I'm in the next parking space trying to ignore them and look at my phone. I don't know if it counts, but I lived in a van for a month or so when I was in college and would sleep at the park. I didn't necessarily see it, but I heard it, and it is burned into my mind forever. A group of the local hobos beat a guy near to death and they all raped his girlfriend/wife then beat her to death. I found a new park after that. LPT. If a random drug dealer asks you for a ride home, don't say yes. If you do say yes, have extra keys with you. Almost got raped. After driving a random drug dealer I bought drugs from home. Dude stole my keys out of the ignition and said he needed his stick wet if I wanted my keys back. Pretended to start crying to make things awkward. He got out of the car with my keys. Locked doors. Got my spare keys out and floored it out of there. All sorts of the usual crap. Dicey situations with dicey people. But the one where I was spine-chilling terrified. I had found a seemingly nice quiet cut in the woods. Shade. Private. I'm set. I wake up to a most guttural yowl at 2 a.m. A pack of feral cats that the adjacent 50-year-old Rainman had lured to his property with cans of wet food. They stood on the fence yowling. Eyes reflecting as we stared the other down. I was homeless in Hawaii for a month after I got out of the army. Nothing I saw was ever like oh crap am I? But there are a lot of homeless meth heads wandering the streets. I watched people having arguments with a spoon they were holding. People eating sand at the beach. People wearing weak old crap caked pants. Meth is ducking wild. Stick to weed and shrooms. Not scary but disturbing. Was walking trying to get to downtown for reason at night. Possibly shelter when this guy started to walk beside me. He followed me for 3 miles while playing with his stick beside me. Even when I made it downtown he still followed me and thought he was going to corner me and probably try and rape me. But he didn't notice I was walking us to a nearby building that had security until I yelled for help. He ran off immediately afterwards. Dude jerking off in the night bus. Bedbugs from a shelter I stayed in for a few nights. I ended up hospitalized. I wasn't really homeless, but I had to live in my car on and off for a couple months in a mountain town due to scarcity of work available at the time. Woke up in the middle of the night to a black bear that was curious trying to get in. It's a long story, but not that interesting. But long story short, I grew up in a very sheltered home. Through a series of unfortunate events. Haha. I became homeless. For someone who didn't know anything about the world. Seeing people use drugs openly. Eat garbage. Cry themselves to sleep on a park bench. Kill themselves. etc. I grew up real quick. While homeless. Before I joined the military, I was sleeping in either an abandoned factory or in my car at the time. While sleeping in the factory I witnessed someone cracked out of their mind arguing with someone else cracked out of their mind arguing over who was going to take the last of the heroin that they had. I watched as someone slit their wrists with a needle covering themselves in their own blood saying that they were the sacrificial lamb and deserved to get the last hit. Needless to say I joined the military a few days later. Neighbors caught a homeless dude shooting seagulls out of the sky and hanging them on a clothes line. Called gaming warden. Shows up to arrest dude when confirmed. Dude says only means of feeding his family. Warden realizes true and not just doing for sport. Lets him off with warning with promise to never do again as seagulls are a protected animal in these parts. When leaving he asks with curiosity what a seagull tastes like. Dude says tastes like mix between spotted owl and California condor. Saw a bunch of gang members beat, rape, shoot, and dismember a homeless gay guy in Tampa Bay. Wonder if they ever got caught. I hitchhiked out of Florida that night. Never homeless but made dumb mistake once. Went to concert in faraway town with no ride/place to stay. Spent a night in the bed of a truck. Woke up around 5 a.m. to people doing meth about 10 feet away. Unaware of my presence. When the sun finally rose a homeless professional found me and took me to the donut shop that was open. She was such a boss. Nazis/wannabe Nazis. I don't know if it was just where I'm from. but almost every homeless person I interacted with was somehow connected to a Nazi organization.